The hospital cafeteria hummed with lunchtime chaos. Nurses grabbing quick meals, doctors reviewing charts, the clatter of trays and hiss of coffee machines creating constant noise. I sat in a corner booth, trying to eat a sandwich that tasted like cardboard, watching my mother hold court at a table surrounded by her nursing colleagues. Linda Matthews, head nurse of the rheumatology unit at St. Joseph's Medical Center, was in her element. At 54, she'd built a reputation as a no-nonsense nurse who ran a tight ship. Her staff respected her. Her supervisors praised her efficiency. And right now she was talking about me. "My daughter is the perfect example of what I'm always saying," my mother said, her voice carrying. "Young people today don't want to work. They find any excuse to avoid responsibility." I shrank lower in my seat, hoping she wouldn't notice me. I'd come to St. Joseph's for a follow-up with Dr. Patricia Harrison, my rheumatologist. The appointment ran long and I was too exhausted to drive home without eating first. "Emma is 28 years old," my mother continued, "and she works maybe 15 hours a week from home doing data entry. She claims she has lupus, but I've looked at her labs. Nothing definitive. Just some elevated markers that could mean anything." A younger nurse asked, "Has she seen a specialist?" "Oh, she's seen specialists," my mother said dismissively. "Multiple times here at St. Joseph's. But these rheumatologists love to diagnose lupus because it's vague enough they can't be proven wrong. Emma has joint pain and fatigue, symptoms 90% of people experience from stress and poor lifestyle choices. But instead of exercising and getting a real job, she's convinced herself she has a serious autoimmune disease." I felt tears burning. I did have lupus, systemic lupus erythematosus, diagnosed 18 months ago after years of worsening symptoms. The joint pain my mother dismissed as normal had progressed until some mornings I couldn't open jars or button clothes. The fatigue wasn't from poor lifestyle. It was my immune system attacking my organs. I didn't work 15 hours a week by choice. I'd been a financial analyst at a major investment firm making $135,000 annually, until lupus flares became so severe I couldn't function. Typing hurt my swollen joints. Brain fog made complex analysis impossible. I'd resigned and taken contract work doing basic data entry because it was all I could manage. "The worst part," my mother continued, "is she's gotten family believing her act. Her aunt started a GoFundMe for her medical expenses. 28 years old, collecting money because she's too lazy to work full-time. I hadn't asked my aunt to start that GoFundMe. She'd done it after visiting me during a bad flare when I'd been bedridden for 2 weeks, my face covered in the butterfly rash, my joints so inflamed I couldn't walk. The $8,000 raised had helped pay for medications insurance only partially covered. "I keep telling her to snap out of it," my mother said. "Get up, get moving, stop wallowing." But she just wants to play victim and collect sympathy. I couldn't listen anymore. I stood, my joints screaming, and walked toward the exit. That's when I saw him, Dr. Robert Chin, Chief of Medicine at St. Joseph's, standing near the coffee station. He was looking directly at my mother's table, his expression dark. Our eyes met. Dr. Chin and I knew each other. He'd been consulted on my case when Dr. Harrison suspected kidney involvement. He'd reviewed my labs, confirmed lupus nephritis, and adjusted my medication. He knew exactly how sick I was. "Miss Matthews," he said quietly, approaching. "I didn't know you were here today." "I had an appointment with Dr. Harrison," I said, voice shaking. "I was just leaving. I couldn't help overhearing your mother's conversation. The nurse discussing a family member with lupus. That's you." I nodded, unable to speak. "And she's saying your lupus diagnosis isn't real? That you're lazy and avoiding work?" "She's always thought I was exaggerating. She's a nurse. She thinks she knows better than specialists." Dr. Chen's jaw tightened. "Miss Matthews, would you meet with me in my office? I'd like to review your medical records with your permission." "Why?" "Because what I heard raises serious concerns about a nurse on my staff demonstrating profound lack of understanding of autoimmune disease and potentially spreading harmful misinformation about a patient, even if that patient is her daughter." 30 minutes later, I sat in Dr. Chen's office, having signed releases for him to access my complete file. He reviewed everything. The positive ANA test, the anti-dsDNA antibodies, the complement levels, the kidney biopsy showing lupus nephritis, the photographs documenting my malar rash during flares. Your mother said your labs showed nothing definitive, Dr. Chen said finally. That's categorically false. You have textbook lupus with organ involvement. Your diagnosis is as definitive as it gets. She doesn't believe autoimmune diseases are real, I said quietly. She thinks they're excuses for lazy people. And she's head nurse of our rheumatology unit, Dr. Chen said, his voice hard. The unit that treats patients with the exact condition she's claiming doesn't exist. He looked at me directly. Miss Matthews, I need your permission to take action. What your mother is doing isn't just personally cruel, it's professionally dangerous. If she holds these views about you, how is she treating our lupus patients? What kind of action? A formal investigation into her patient care practices and professional conduct. The things she said, dismissing lupus as laziness, claiming rheumatologists overdiagnose, suggesting patients are malingerers. Those statements from the head nurse of a rheumatology unit are alarming. I thought about all the times my mother had dismissed my pain. All the times she'd told me to push through it. All the family gatherings where she'd made jokes about my fake illness, while I struggled to hold a fork with swollen hands. Do it, I said. The investigation began the next day. Dr. Chen requested a review of patient complaints against the rheumatology nursing staff over 2 years. What they found was disturbing. Multiple patients had complained about the head nurse, my mother, telling them their pain was all in their head, or they just needed to exercise more. Several lupus patients reported she'd questioned their medication needs, suggesting they were taking too many pills for something that's not that serious. One patient had filed a formal grievance after my mother told her lupus was basically just being tired, and she should stop being dramatic about normal aches. Dr. Harrison, my rheumatologist, was interviewed. He was horrified. I had no idea Linda Matthews was Emma's mother, Dr. Harrison told investigators. I've been treating Emma for 18 months. She has severe lupus with kidney involvement. She's on immunosuppressants, antimalarials, and corticosteroids. She's dealing with a serious, potentially life-threatening condition with remarkable grace. And her mother has been telling people, including my nursing staff, that lupus isn't real? That explains why patients have complained about dismissive treatment. The investigation expanded. They reviewed how my mother ran the unit, how she trained new nurses, what she told staff about patients. They found she'd created a culture of skepticism around autoimmune diagnoses, frequently telling staff that patients were exaggerating or drug-seeking or just depressed. Several nurses came forward confidentially reporting that my mother had discouraged them from spending too much time with patients she deemed complainers, which included most lupus and rheumatoid arthritis patients. Dr. Chen called me in 1 week after the investigation began. Miss Matthews, I want you to know what we've found. Your mother has been running the rheumatology unit with fundamental misunderstanding of autoimmune disease. She's been dismissing patient symptoms, questioning physician treatment plans, and creating a hostile environment for some of our sickest patients. What happens now? She's being placed on immediate administrative leave pending completion of our investigation. Based on what we've found, I don't anticipate she'll return to her position. She's demonstrated a pattern of behavior incompatible with patient care, particularly in a unit serving vulnerable autoimmune patients. My phone started ringing that afternoon. First my mother, furious. Emma, what did you do? They've suspended me. This is your fault. Then my father, your mother gave 30 years to that hospital. How could you sabotage her career because she hurt your feelings? Then my brother, Mom questions your diagnosis and you try to get her fired? That's vindictive. I didn't answer any of them. I was reading the email Dr. Chen had forwarded. A message to all nursing staff about the importance of believing patients, supporting physician diagnoses, and understanding that invisible illnesses were real. The investigation concluded 2 weeks later. My mother was terminated and reported to the state nursing board for demonstrated pattern of dismissing patient symptoms and undermining physician treatment plans. The board opened their own investigation into whether her license should be suspended. The hospital issued a statement. St. Joseph's Medical Center is committed to providing compassionate, evidence-based care to all patients, particularly those with chronic conditions. Any staff member who demonstrates dismissive attitudes toward patient symptoms will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. My mother's termination became known throughout the local medical community. Other hospitals heard about the head nurse fired for dismissing lupus patients. No one wanted to hire her. She left me a voicemail 2 weeks after termination. "Emma, I've lost everything. My job, my reputation, my career. And for what? Because you were too sensitive about me questioning whether you're really sick? I hope you're happy." I listened once, then deleted it. 3 weeks later, I received a letter from the state nursing board. They'd suspended my mother's license for 6 months and required her to complete continuing education on autoimmune diseases and patient advocacy before she could apply for reinstatement. My family sent a collective email. "Emma, your mother's career is destroyed. She can't work for 6 months, and even after, no one will hire her. You've ruined her life because she didn't believe you were as sick as you claimed. Was it worth it?" I wrote back one sentence. "She told a cafeteria full of nurses that lupus isn't real while I'm on immunosuppressants to keep my kidneys from failing. Ask her if that was worth it." 6 months later, my mother completed her required education and had her license reinstated. She found work at a small clinic 2 hours away, no longer in leadership, no longer working with rheumatology patients. Just basic nursing under close supervision. I'd started physical therapy and found a new medication combination helping manage my flares. I'd increased my work hours to 25 per week, and my former employer had reached out about potential part-time consulting. Dr. Harrison had become an advocate for better nursing education on autoimmune diseases. She'd written an article for a nursing journal about the harm caused when healthcare workers dismiss invisible illnesses. She'd used my mother's case, anonymously, as an example. My family never apologized. They still believed I'd overreacted, that I'd destroyed my mother's career over a difference of opinion. But I hadn't overreacted. I'd protected other lupus patients from a nurse who thought their disease was laziness. I'd stopped someone in a position of power from spreading dangerous misinformation. She'd called my lupus just being lazy to her nursing staff. She'd dismissed a serious autoimmune disease attacking my kidneys. I'd silently shown my medical file to her chief of medicine, letting the evidence speak. Her next shift was her last, because you can't run a rheumatology unit while believing rheumatologic diseases aren't real. I survived lupus. I survived the family that told me I was lazy. And I survived being raised by a nurse who thought compassion for chronically ill patients was optional. Because sometimes the most dangerous person in a hospital isn't a patient with autoimmune disease. It's the nurse who refuses to believe those diseases exist.